Today, we interview a carnivore couple that have been on the carnivore lifestyle for the last 3 years. They'll talk about how they discovered it, what they experienced, and what benefits they've had from it. So stay tuned. Hi, welcome back to the Primal Lifestyle, and I've got two fabulous guests today. I've got Val and Colin, who are coming to the meetup if anyone wants to do. So, Val and Colin, tell me why you went carnivore.
Well, it was actually my idea. I'm a Jordan Peterson fan. He's Canadian psychologist, well known, written many books, and he was talking about problems he'd had with depression, gum disease, weight concerns, and had gone on to the carnivore diet. And I was interested, not so much for the weight loss, but for the depression and for other health problems. And I thought, having listened to him, I thought it sounded like, a very good thing to try. So that's how it started, really. And I thought, right, well, I'll have a go at it. And just went on. I decided to just go for the carnivore diet, but eating all dairy products as well. So all animal products, if you like. So I decided to eat everything from animals and to take out processed foods, etc., and just give it a go and see how I got on with it.
Sorry, the dog's coming. I think she wants to join in.
I've got Donald sleeping down at my feet at the moment. He's most likely to interrupt as well, so don't worry. All animals are welcome.
Carl has his dog on the videos. It's all right.
Indeed.
I'll hold her next time she comes out.
Yes.
She might just have to settle down.
Yeah. So Jordan Peterson also talked about his daughter Mikhaila. Mikhaila Peterson had terrible autoimmune problems right from a child, and very, very severe problems, including she ended up with a hip replacement and ankle replacement when she was 17. Now, she tried the elimination diet, and it ended up with her being very carnivore. So she ended up actually almost doing the lion diet, and it helped her tremendously. And it was Mikhaila that had spoken to her father, Jordan, about it. And he decided to give it a go for his problems as well. So it sort of, and then I listened to a lot of what Mikhaila Peterson had said, and I was really impressed with what the carnivore diet had done for her health-wise. So that's how it began. I was just hoping that it would improve my mental health more than anything, and also inflammation. I was starting to have knee problems. Very painful knees coming down the stairs, things like that. And I'd also then looked in a lot to inflammation and how different foods and different things can cause inflammation within the body. And so that was the other reason I thought I'd like to try it, because I was getting older and my joints were aching and I was starting to have problems. So I thought, well, let's give it a go. So that was really the background and the basis to why I started trying it, and Colin joined in.
I was watching you, and I saw you were already having benefits quite quickly after a couple of weeks.
I was.
So I thought it was only 2 weeks I joined, but you told me it was about a month. So I started also doing it, and I'm quite sort of when I apply myself to something, I am quite determined. So for me, it was like a challenge. I mean, we're both really retired now, so we are sort of looking for things to do. So I do quite like to get my teeth into something. And also, it's quite good when two of you are doing a diet together, because it makes it so much easier with the shopping, the cooking, and the preparation and everything. I do most of the shopping, but I actually quite enjoy it. I actually like going to the shops and seeing what foods are available and what's in them and what you can buy. I mean, I spent half my life in Lidl and Tesco's, to be honest.
Yeah.
So it was quite a good challenge.
But it was Colin who started to do all the real research. I just was going along on eating animal products, and Colin started to do an awful lot of research about nutrition and how the body works, and really quite went into things like cholesterol, inflammation again, which is my thing, if you like. And so we really got into it because Colin did so much research, and he started advising me and giving me sort of information, and we went from there. And we tried all kinds of eating at first, but you tended not to eat the dairy so much.
No, not so much. I mean, we're going back quite a while now, because we're going back to, what are we now, 2025. So it was 2022 when we started. So I'm trying to remember what exactly happened at the start. But we did get a few of the unusual symptoms, didn't we, which we saw on YouTube that you get, a bit of the sort of diarrhea problems. Yeah. But we did realize that it took quite a few months to get adapted. I think it can take can almost take up to 6 months. So there were a few teething problems starting off. Yeah. But they weren't that bad.
No.
And we did stick to it, I think, pretty strict, didn't we, to start off? It was mostly whole meats.
Yes.
I think the emphasis was on trying to have whole meat rather than processed meat, and a lot of eggs. We do eat a lot of eggs. So it was sort of mostly beef, minced beef, steaks, sort of some pork, quite a lot of chicken, a lot of eggs. I mean, I absolutely love eggs. I mean, if there was an eating competition, I would enter it for eggs, because I could eat eggs all day, and they're so versatile. I mean, fried eggs, scrambled eggs, you could do so much with them. And we had a bit of dairy, didn't we? A little bit of yogurt and milk.
I particularly like the dairy. I still eat the dairy now, so I still have the butter and the cheese. I love all my cheese. Got to be careful of the calories there, but yes.
Yeah.
So dairy's my thing that keeps me going on the carnivore at the moment.
But the longer we've done it, the more finesse has come in, I think, hasn't it? I've worked out what certain things do to my body. I can almost govern my weight now to 100 grams. I've got it off to that much detail. I mean, some of the carnivore foods are quite calorific, some are low calorific. There is a lot of detail there.
Colin keeps me on the straight and narrow, to be honest, because I don't go into any of that at all. He's very interested in all of that.
I do.
He just explains to me what I should and shouldn't be doing, really.
Well, that is me. You see, I do. It's like, for example, I'm quite a keen fisherman, and I've kept a diary since January the 14th, 1974. So how many years is that? It's quite a lot. It's like 52 years, isn't it? I've got every single fishing time I've been fishing, which is like tens of thousands. And I've done the same with this. Like, what we eat all day goes in a diary. So I've got all these books, what we eat.
You can see me going.
I know.
But it does help. Actually, it does help.
It does, yeah.
We'd never say that that's the thing to do, because it's quite tedious, but Colin likes to do it.
But now you've got the modern technology. I'm a bit of a dinosaur, but even I've managed to put it on my phone now, and the phone is fantastic because it tells you all the protein and the macros. It's incredible how it works it all out. I mean, most people say they haven't got time to do all that, but you see, I actually quite enjoy doing it. I get fun out of it.
I don't have time.
No,
I don't have time for that.
But I do, and I think it's interesting.
Yeah,
but for me, it's quite interesting. You're the first couple I've ever done an interview. So if you're both on the same diet, quite often we find that ladies and men benefit from carnivore in different ways and at different timings. Did you find that the same for you too? If you were on the same diet, but did you have different reactions to the diet?
Yeah, yes, I think so. For me, I have stage 4 gum disease, and I've had it for 30 years. And this was another thing that I actually got from Jordan Peterson. And it was almost instantaneous that my gums stopped bleeding, and it stopped it in its tracks. You can't cure it. You can't be cured. It's gone too far. But it was incredible. For me, that was a real surprise. And, even I have to go to the dentist regularly. And even now, they're very surprised at what's happened and why my condition has improved so much. And I definitely put it down to the carnivore diet.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the carnivore diet can't reverse it, which is a shame, but it certainly means that I'm going to hold on to my teeth a lot longer. It was like really important to me.
She takes a lot of convincing with anything. She wouldn't compliment the carnivore diet if she didn't mean it. She's not one of these people that just goes with the flow. You have to really convince Val to get a compliment. So for her to say those two things about the health benefits, that's really is correct, you know.
But that's the thing I noticed straight away. And since then I've had no knee problems. I have very rarely do I have any aches and pains. I mean, I do have aches and pains if I've done something strenuous, if I've done after Pilates but I do all of those things. I have Pilates, I'm in a walking group, I get plenty of exercise.
A couple of months ago, she was wild swimming on the Upper River Severn in just a bathing costume in April.
Wow.
I know.
That's just because
12 miles from the source of the river in the Welsh hills there, swimming in just a swimsuit.
Oh, that's just my little hobby. That's my hobby.
I went in, but I put a wetsuit on.
Yeah.
But she does zip lining in Thailand. This is a couple of years ago. At 68 years old.
Yeah. So I mean, I think for my my age. Yeah, I feel pretty good for my age. I've got to say, I do. I do.
Yeah, you do well. You're very extremely well.
Yeah. And I do put that down to my diet. Because I was already starting to get those joint aches and problems, and that's all disappeared since I've been on the carnivore diet.
Yeah, the carnivore, it does seem to be particularly good for joint problems, because my joints have never been brilliant all my life, but they've not been that bad. And after about 2 years on the carnivore, they were pretty good. And we went to Thailand for, how long was it? A couple of weeks. And of course, over in Thailand, of course, they threw in the free breakfast, and I'm a massive eater, so I couldn't help but having huge breakfast. And I don't know what sort of foods, we were eating all sorts of foods. We didn't stick to the carnivore diet for the time.
No.
And when I got back, my joints were really bad, particularly my elbows. I mean, I go in a gym and you do sort of curls. And for about a month, I almost couldn't go. They were that bad. So whatever I'd been eating off the carnivore diet, I don't know what it was, whether it was the seed oils in what they were using, but something over there in Thailand really upset my joints, almost to the degree that I couldn't go to the gym. It was that bad. But after a month of being back on the carnivore, it all repaired itself and came back to normal again. So there's definitely something in the joints with the carnivore.
Yes.
Definitely.
I agree. So I would recommend it to anyone who's got any kind of joint problems, because it does improve them no end.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also found my sleep massively improved. And I think Colin and I have chatted online about this. It doesn't matter what time I go to bed, if it's at 11 o'clock. The other night I was comedy gigging and I didn't get home till 2:30 in the morning, and I still woke up at 4:30 and I still felt ready to go. Do you find the same?
I am the same. Yes, I sleep really well. I mean, we go to bed, so it's fairly about 10 o'clock, but I wake up at 4:30 every morning, like clockwork, and feel great. I often have to get up for a wee in the night, but then I go straight back to sleep. So the sleep is really good, but I am tired at 10, and I do try and stick to the same time going to bed and getting up. So I sort of get 6.5 hours. But we are retired, so I haven't got to rush off to work, so I can relax in the morning. So that's fine for me. But yes, sleep. I mean, sleep's been great.
It's not quite as good for me, I'm afraid. I've never been a good sleeper. I think I'd probably say it's improved it, but I haven't had the result that Colin's had with the sleep. So yeah, it's It's improved, I think, but it's not solved my sleep pattern.
I think the difference is I am tired when I go to bed. I've sort of got it till about 9:45 when my eyes start going watching the telly, and I want to go to sleep.
I suppose you do more than me.
Yeah, but we don't nap in the day or anything, do we? We don't sleep in the day.
No.
I think that's a big mistake. That is, if you start napping in the day, then you aren't going to sleep, are you? I think that consistent bedtime and getting up, my phone tells me it is very important, And
one of the biggest changes for me was my sleep pattern completely changed for the better. You know?
Yeah. An amazing fact for you was the fact that your feet dropped 2 sizes.
Yeah.
Never heard anyone say that before.
Well, I used to do judo at my younger age, so I had a bit of damage to my feet. So my feet, I assumed, had just grown, and I used to be between a size 14 and a size 15 English size shoe, and I'm now fit comfortably in a size 12. And I think it's from the damage I'd done to my joints in my feet through the judo. The inflammation was there, and I never realised it. I just assumed it's what it was. Now, as you say, my joints are much better, my inflammation's gone down, and suddenly I was finding that the shoes were more like flippers, so I had to go down 2 sizes.
Wow.
God, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a size 11, so not quite as big as yours, but still quite big, I suppose, 11.
Yeah. So anyone watching this that's considering going on carnivore and has heard all the stories and heard all the scare stories, what if you're talking to them now, what advice would you give them?
Well, I would say to them, definitely give it a try, but I would also say to them that don't go to the extreme, do it gradually, because it's quite a difficult diet to keep going on. You know, it's not easy. You do get used to it and you do adapt to it, and it becomes a way of life. But I think, you know, don't go straight to a lion diet or something like that. No. Just start elimination diet, if you like. Try and do it that way. I would definitely say, because it's so difficult to go straight into just eating meat. So I would definitely encourage the dairy. I would just say, don't eat any processed foods. You know, that's the first thing. No more processed foods. And, you know, no carbs if you can help it. That would be what I would say, because that's where my difficulty was. I couldn't go straight into just eating meat or doing the lion diet, which is just beef, salt, and water, isn't it? So yeah, that's what I advise. But you find it much easier.
I am a big eater. So
what would you say then to people?
Well, it's not slightly off the question, but it is really, really hard to convince people. I mean, bearing in mind, we don't go out of our way to try and convince people. We don't throw the carnivore diet on people. But you would have thought after almost 3 years of us being on it, we would have convinced one person. We haven't convinced one person. And we've got family that have got type 2 diabetes that would massively benefit from it. Not one person is even interested, I would have said. Hardly anyone. We had a lady that was the pet sitter. She dabbled with it, but even she didn't stick to it. But none of our family or friends take it seriously. And I find that really strange, because if you think about it deeply, it probably is the most important thing we do in our life. What we put in our mouth, what we eat. It's really, really important. And I mean, I honestly think it is no less than a miracle eating regime. You know, some of the stories I've seen are just incredible of the healing of people.
What would you say to people, though, if you wanted to convince
them? Well, yes, I would agree with you. You it is best to try and do it gradually. It's no good going into it like, as you say, the lion diet, where you just literally eat beef and water. Even I think would struggle a bit with that. But yes, the first thing I would do is cut out the processed foods, and then try and eat sort of some of the meats you really like, you know, the whole meats. You know, if you like steaks, I know they're expensive, but have some steak and eggs. And I mean, I know bacon is always a bit of a sort of debatable thing, but bacon, a lot of people love bacon, don't they? Eggs.
I think things like that, you should use those at first.
Yeah, and bring in all the, as you say, the dairy.
You know, you can almost have a full English.
Yeah. Oh yes.
You know, bacon, sausage, eggs. Just, you know, to start off with, because it just makes it that much easier to adapt to it. Because I think it's quite a difficult diet to.
I think you're spot on here. I've just recently released a new series of people interested in the carnivore, and the big thing in my first part of it was transition, because like you, I went wholeheartedly into it, and I had the whole keto flu issues. I had the diarrhea and all that, where I've learned subsequently, I'm now coming up to 2 years on carnivore. I've now learned subsequently that if you do a transition first, and it might be a week, a 2 week, even a 3 week, even longer if you need it. But as you say, cut out the seed oils, cut out the unnecessary hidden sugars and the carbs, and then build up your meat and dairy intake. And when I say dairy, more eggs than anything. Then eventually you'll find suddenly you're doing carnivore anyhow.
Yes,
I think that's far beneficial. So I 100% agree with what you're saying there.
Yeah.
And I think if you can, I know it's hard for a lot of people, but cut out the booze if you can.
Yes.
Because I don't think that's the best, is it?
Well, the problem
the one thing I would say on the carnivore is when you do have a treat, like the other day we went to a presentation and there was a bar there and I had a couple of beers. I hadn't had a beer for 2 months, I think. So like that beer was just gorgeous.
I do drink beer more often than Colin.
Right. You're a bit like me then, Val. You're a dirty carnivore.
I do like my beer treat, I've got to say.
But the novelty when you go off is quite interesting. Like yesterday, we went to a farm and we do a bit of voluntary work there. And they had a whole load of, Tesco must have given them God knows how many bananas, and several hundred bananas.
Yeah.
So I had a banana for the first time in, 6 months probably.
Yeah.
And when you do have a cake, it's best to pick one you really like because it's so rare you have a cake. But it's so sweet.
Yeah, we do.
But you do enjoy it.
We do have a treat now and again. We do. So, and I think another thing is it's difficult here in the UK to go out and eat carnivore. It's very difficult because there's nothing on the menu ever.
Yeah.
Unless you're just going to have steak or something like that. If you go and you're having a burger, I try not to eat the bun, but it's all very and I never eat the salad or any of the vegetables, but it sort of defeats the purpose sometimes, doesn't it? So it is difficult to eat out in the UK on a carnivore diet, definitely.
Yeah, it is. Yes.
And the other thing we do try and do as well is if we've been invited to friends or something, we don't ask them to cater for us. No. We just, go along with whatever they're preparing for us because we talk about the carnivore diet while we're eating it, but we tend not to ask people to
we don't put people out, but we hardly ever go out.
But we hardly ever go out.
So we're not cheating. We're hardly ever cheating.
Yeah,
if we got invited to a Sunday lunch somewhere, like for example your sister or something, we'd go, wouldn't we?
Yes, we would.
And we wouldn't even mention that we're carnivore.
They know we're carnivore, but we would still eat what she provided.
But when you've been on carnivores for almost 3 years like we have, and you do stray with a meal, you get all the horrible symptoms come back afterwards, because that was the first thing I noticed on the carnivore was the gas all went away from the vegetables. You had a really flat stomach. And if you stray now, the gas comes back.
It does, yes.
So you pay the price.
You immediately pay the price.
You do, you pay, and it's not good. It's enough almost to put you off, isn't it, to not have it?
Yeah, I don't tend to touch vegetables at all now.
No,
not at all.
I think I think Val's learned what vegetables she can eat. She can have the occasional potato, because you do like a potato, don't you? Yeah. That doesn't seem to upset you, but the salad definitely does, doesn't it?
Any other? Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, Val touched on the American thing. Then I watched quite a lot. Well, I watched an enormous amount of YouTube. So if I doubt anyone watches as much as I do on nutrition, because I get up early and watch all the videos. That's how I came across your videos. I know the Americans have got huge appetites and they eat quite badly. They've got a range of foods available, much more than we have here. They've got all sorts of things. I'll show you one thing we've been using is this pork rind crumbs. Can you see that? Right. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Pork panko.
Yeah.
Well, I had to order that from America. I ordered 6. And it does mean it gives you a bit of versatility with your recipes. You can add it to quite a few things. It is just literally 100% pork crumb. So it gives you that bit of a crunch in some of the foods, for making.
Yeah, I tend to use it. I tend to use it in place of breadcrumbs. So if I'm doing something, so I'm doing myself a bit of fish and I dip the fish in some egg.
Yeah, that's it.
Put the breadcrumbs and then you've got a crunchy fish.
That's right. Yeah. And I have actually got the recipe book.
Oh, it's next door, I think. The Courtly Lunar
recipe
cookbook. Yeah, we've used that a few times.
Carnivore cookbook. It's very good, actually. So I've done quite a few recipes from that. But again, sometimes you can't get the ingredients because it's American. So, but I sort of adapt it, and I've done some lovely, very calorific, but lovely carnivore.
Yeah, you have done. So Val is a good cook, actually. See, I'm very basic. I just put everything in the air fryer. I mean, Val doesn't totally agree with me here, but the air fryer has honestly transformed our lives. I mean, it's so easy just to cook the food, and it's so fast. Yeah. I've even been doing just fish in there. I got some beautiful salmon from Lidl. But 5 minutes.
But sometimes, if we're having steak, I just like to pan fry it. You know, rather than put it in the air fryer.
Yeah,
I just like to pan fry it.
It's
just things like that, really.
It's surprising what you can do in there. I mean, I'll be called a Philistine for doing steaks in there, but I've recently bought some Aberdeen Angus 36-day aged ribeyes, and you put them in there for 6 minutes, 3 minutes each side. And I'm not joking; they come out absolutely perfect. But I do just tap them with a hammer first, just to tap. They don't really need tenderizing, but I make sure they're tenderized. And I don't think you could top. They melt in your mouth.
Yeah, they're lovely.
They're absolutely gorgeous.
Nice yeah.
But of course, they're £7 each, so that's like they're quite expensive.
Yeah.
But they are beautiful.
That's the other thing. It's quite an expensive diet if you're eating all of that meat. But then you can eat cheaper cuts.
Yes.
And that's another thing I would recommend if someone's starting. You know, just go for the cheaper cuts at first and see how you get on with the different meats. I'll eat a lot of grass-fed ground beef, but you know, I don't tend to go for that. I'd rather make mine into meatballs or something like that. So so there's, you know, lots of things that you can sort of learn along the way that helps you to stick to it.
I mean, the cheapest probably food on the carnivore probably is chicken. I mean, I think my favorite meal is chicken wings. You can get them from Lidl, I think, for 1 kilo for about £1.80, I think. And you just put them in the air fryer for 30 minutes. And I add this. I know it's a bit naughty, but I add this spice, this Cajun spice, Schwartz.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely gorgeous, mixed with the oil from the chicken.
I don't.
That takes some beating, that does.
We have our differences. Carl likes his spice on top.
I know it's a little bit naughty, but
and I don't have anything on mine.
It transforms the food so much, that Cajun spice. It's incredible.
Well, you like it, don't you? You find it helps.
But this is the beauty of carnivore. It's no set rule. And as I always point out, there are no carnivore police. So if you slightly go off kilter, you're not going to be dragged out of your house, you know. But the key bit is to come away from the process, get away from the seed and the vegetable oils, introduce animal fat. So do you eat a lot of fat? Because you've talked a lot about the meat side of it. Do you eat a lot of fat?
Yeah, a fair bit of fat, don't we?
Yeah, butter. As in Kerrygold butter. We found Kerrygold butter is probably the best butter that we can get, which has...
There are other butters available, should people who want to...
There are other butters available, We find that one, yes, there are other butters available. But I eat a lot of butter.
Yeah.
I love butter. I love cheese. But we tend to stick to tallow, goose fat, duck fat, and
I've got a bit of ghee in. I've got a bit of ghee in there as well, haven't I?
Yeah.
In fact, I use butter less than you. I tend to cook in the goose fat and the beef fat and the ghee, depending on what I'm cooking.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't put a huge amount in, really. Yeah, and the fat is debatable. How much fat you should have. I know a lot of people go high fat, some go low fat. Yeah, it's a very debatable subject, really.
Well,
Dr. Kiltz calls it the fat diet. He says it's more about the fat than it is the meat. But that's, as you say, it's different opinions.
Yeah.
I think I've read that for women, it's quite important to have fat for women's hormones, etc. So, and also I like the butter and I like the fat. So I think, incorporate it quite a lot because I do enjoy eating it.
Well, you do need so many grams per day, don't you, to function properly with your hormones with fat.
Yeah.
So, but you've also got to manage your weight because obviously fat is much more calorific than the two other macronutrients. You've got 9, haven't you? Whereas the other 2 are only 4. So you have got to be a bit careful. But it is interesting, the fat content in all the meats.
Yeah, but it's the cholesterol that creates the hormones that you need for your body function, and you get majority of that from the fat. So there's that balance and act. Because with the thing I couldn't get over when I was going through my weight transition, the more fat I ate, the more fat I lost, and it sounds mad as a box of frogs.
It does sound mad. Yes, I know.
And I had some days where I had this absolute craving for fat, and other days I'd be quite happy just to eat as whatever. And I was quickly went on to Nomad, where one meal a day.
Yes.
But I always felt I needed like a chunk of butter. Anything I could, I'd cut a big chunk of butter and stick it on top of it, and then eat it with the bacon or the meat. Yes. Yeah. So
are you still on one? Are you still on one meal a day now or not?
Pretty much, yeah.
Really?
I do tend to eat during the week raw rather than rare.
Right, yes.
Or I may just literally sear it in the pan. So I must try your air fryer version of a steak just to test it out. But with me, it's normally a hot pan, flipped in, flipped out. So I eat it with the French would call blue. But there are times where I can't be asked to cook. So I'll do myself some scrambled eggs and I'll eat a raw steak alongside it. But that's just my personal taste.
Yeah, I watched the video of you eating the raw steak. Would you say you enjoy your steak more raw or more rare? Which is the better option?
I do like a slight sear. I do like a slight sear on a steak. So, but I would say in terms of flavour, personally, and it is just a personal opinion, I think raw meat you can't beat. So I'd even eat raw. I even eat raw mince. Although I know George Goodenough, you may have seen some of the stuff of George.
Yes,
he made a very valid point. I would only eat raw meat that's been freeze packed, rather than raw meat that's come from a butcher's. I would tend to slightly cook the butcher's meat because it's been open and exposed to oxygen and pathogens. Where if it's freeze dried, it's literally there, done. And what I tend to do as a safety feature, I tend to freeze my raw meat for 2 days. Then when I defrost it, I will then eat it there and then, because the pathogens have been dealt with through the freezing process. And before they can start to develop again, I've already eaten it. I would not eat it straight from a butcher's and eat it raw. No, I'd freeze it.
What about a packaged steak that you would buy, for example, from Lidl? If you bought a Lidl ribeye,
George does that all the time, and he's never had an ill effect. I have done that, but I tend to still do the freeze process and then thaw and then eat as soon as it's thawed.
I'll try that.
Yeah, just if you'll see from my videos, I went again. I did my typical full tilt. Realised I should have done it a bit more gradual because I did have some digestive impact 2 or 3 days into it because I was eating so much meat, my body wasn't absorbing it. I then slowed it down, went 1 meal a day, and it works fine. And I would say I'm 60%, 70% I'll eat raw, and the rest I'll eat cooked.
Well, I eat everything. Yeah, I eat all my meat very rare, but I do tend to, as you said, sear it, either side steak and things. But I do like it very rare. Same as I like liver, very rare. So but I haven't got to the stage yet of eating it raw. But I think you would, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I have tried minced beef raw, which was fine. It's quite strange. Now we've been on the carnivore quite a long time. I could attempt eating raw meat, but I think before, no way could I have attempted eating a raw steak. No chance. But now I watched you eating yours, and I thought you were enjoying that, cutting little bits off with the knife. I thought, because I really like fat now. I never used, when I was young, in my younger days, I never used to like the taste of fat. Now the fat part is the best, I think. I really like fat.
Totally agree with you. Totally agree with you on that.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't eat raw pork. I would never recommend anyone eating raw pork or anything from the pig because obviously the risk, you do need to cook that. But beef, I think you can do. I do know that George also, I believe, eats raw lamb, but that's not something I've tried. I personally like the flavour of raw beef with a tiny bit of salt on it. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Steak tartare, the classic.
Yeah, if you've got a good steak, you don't need it, just a bit of salt. That's all you need on it. You want to taste the meat, don't you, really? You don't want to taste the flavouring.
So in terms of, because you made a very valid point about the social side of it and the challenge, I think a lot of people find the challenge the social. And I tend to try and either eat before I go out socializing, or if it's going to someone's house, I will tend to bring some food with me and speak to the people before, not to offend them in anything, like what you say. But sometimes you've got to suck it up and eat what's given to you.
Yeah.
But it's interesting you made the same observation I had, that I normally get ill effects the next day if I've eaten off diet.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Within a couple of hours of eating it, it starts hitting me real quickly, like, you know. But we hardly ever go out, you see. That's the difference. If we were going out every week, we hardly ever go out to eat. So we're talking once every 3 or 4 months, probably, aren't we? So, you know, it's a bit of a treat for us, really. But yeah, we do suffer afterwards.
You do.
And the longer you've been on the carnivore, I think the more you suffer, because it's like your body has adapted to the meat. And then when you suddenly go on something different, like salad or something, your body thinks, oh my God, what's this? What do I do with this now? You know, and you get all these weird gas and you blow up like a balloon. Yesterday, we had a nibble yesterday, didn't we? Like, you inflate. It's incredible. After that banana.
The side effects aren't good.
No. But of course, that was happening to you all the time when you were eating vegetables and fruit and salads and things.
Yes. And you notice the difference. It's, you know, it's incredible how your body feels when you've eliminated all of that.
Yeah. I think
it just causes gas all the time, doesn't it?
That Ken Berry, I think, mentions it a lot in his videos, doesn't he? He's always very good at describing that, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yes, we've watched quite a lot of Ken Berry, haven't we? Because there's carnivores all over the world, isn't there? There's that Dr. Chapey in Australia. There's a lot of very influential people giving out the information.
Yeah.
And do you find that you get non-carnivores giving you medical advice then when they find out that you're carnivore, telling you about, you shouldn't eat all that fat? Do you find that often, or
all the time?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yes, all the time.
Because I found when I was obese and I was clinically obese, people were quite happy about me. The minute I started losing weight and they said, how are you doing it? And you tell them, it's like, you shouldn't do that. It's terrible. And I'm like, hang on a minute. I'm fitter, better, stronger, healthier now, but you're more worried about what I eat.
Well, we still get it because that's what the media put across. That's what the people think. That, you know, you shouldn't eat. If you eat a full English, what do people say when we try and
get the defibrillator out?
Yeah, and things like that.
And yeah, you eat a bun or a croissant, no one says anything. Your whole tray of donuts and no one bothers.
You get a full English out and they're all heart attack.
I think it's going back in time, isn't it? Their mindset has been focused on this wrong information for so long that it's almost like a nervous reaction, isn't it?
And I think the thing that I get most is cholesterol. People talking about their high cholesterol and talking about their good cholesterol and their bad cholesterol, and the doctor wants to put them on statins.
Statins. Ugh.
Yeah,
I know. And I do try and explain that cholesterol is very, it's very complicated. There's a lot more to it than people realize.
Yeah.
And also in this country, if you have a blood test, then, if you have a blood test, they don't do all of the tests like they do in America. So you can't see your particles or anything like that. And I think that is really something that the NHS needs to look at, because I don't think I know I shouldn't say this really, but I don't think the doctors
they don't
really
know what they're
understand
talking about.
cholesterol. Because otherwise, why are they putting people on statins and not saying to them to change their diet?
Well, that's a really valid point, that, because from what my understanding, I'm not a doctor, right? My understanding is when doctors go through medical training, they have about a day on nutrition, and then the rest of their training is around their subject. That's all they get, is about a day on nutrition and advice on there. That's the reason why I'm self-funding myself to get a PhD, so I can talk from a position of authority, rather than just being seen as some tinfoil wearing crack that's on YouTube and putting messages out there.
But
I always think people got to do their own research.
Oh, yes,
and do their own experiments. So what we do is our own experiments on ourselves, and so far it's proved to be the right way for me.
Yes, and we found exactly the same. But it's almost impossible to convince people about cholesterol.
It is.
And and the moment that they're offered statins, they go on them. And I'd say don't go on the statins. Change your way you're eating. Try that first before you go on the statins, because it's probably due to your diet. And if you can change your diet, reduce your inflammation, etc., you might find your cholesterol, you don't need to go on statins. But I think the problem is with the cholesterol is that because the doctor's saying bad cholesterol, good cholesterol.
And when you hear
and
it from
people are confused.
When you hear it from your doctor, you feel like you've got to go with it, don't you?
Of course you do.
Because I had a blood test. It was about a year ago, so I've been on the Carnivore almost 2 years, and my cholesterol levels were, I'm not going to say high, because obviously you've got different parts of this. Cholesterol is an extremely complicated subject. I mean, people have written whole books on it.
Yeah.
But you mentioned the word cholesterol, and people actually think it's a bad substance. They think, oh, I've got high cholesterol. I'm panicking. I've got to lower it. Well, and a lot of the adverts on the telly are also giving out this information. So the public are just being given wrong information.
Yeah.
Well, it's old science. That's the problem.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Fortunately, there is more research now coming forward, now proving that cholesterol is not a bad thing. And a lot of people that live into their 90s plus are all showing signs that they had high cholesterol levels, which helps. So that's a telltale sign that your hormones are improving because you've got that level of cholesterol. The brain needs cholesterol.
Yeah, the brain is mostly cholesterol.
Absolutely. See, sadly,
they were so concerned about my cholesterol, they actually made an appointment for someone from the hospital to ring me up to speak to me. And this person, obviously it's their job to ring up people about cholesterol. He rang me up, and I knew more about cholesterol than he did, because I've been watching all these videos on the telly. And I completely baffled him. He wanted to put me on statins, and I had counters for everything he said. I said, well, no, you can't do that. It's about the particle size. It's about the big particles. You don't want the small. And he knew less than I did.
He did.
And he went away, feeling a bit of a wally, really. And of course, I didn't touch the statins.
No.
It is an extremely complicated subject.
It is.
But the only real use for a statin is when you have got extremely high triglycerides and low cholesterol levels, then a statin will help. Other than that, I think people should question why they're being asked to go on statins. Do your own research and then make your own informed decision, because I think lowering
they don't question. They go with the doctor.
Yeah, everyone. We're in a pop a pill society now.
Yes.
When someone's got a problem, here's a pill. Rather than looking at what's causing the problem, there's a quick fix. That's funny enough. I'm doing an interview soon of someone that went on the slimming injections, and he's going to be talking about his story and journey. He's now full carnivore now,
right?
And that will be something I'll be doing shortly, because I did a thing anti the injection because I think it's that convenience, quick fix. But what it doesn't do, it doesn't solve the problem. It's just a quick fix to deal with the problem. And I think people need to wake up to that. But that's just me.
No, I think that's true. And I think people are a bit lazy when it comes to trying to change their diet, trying to change their lifestyle. And, if there's a pill that's going to fix it and they haven't got to put the effort in, I think that is one of the problems. But it would be so nice if people would just take the time to look at their nutrition and the way that they eat. And it's not even really to do with masses of exercise or anything like that. It really is to do with what you eat is going to make you feel the way you feel. And if you adopt the carnivore diet, you really do feel better, and it does improve everything. And I think inflammation is the thing. If you can reduce the inflammation, you're going to feel so much better, and it cures so many things. Yeah.
Well, as the old saying says, you are what you eat.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's so true.
Yeah, I think that is very true. So for people that are interested in your story, the good news is you've both got tickets to come into our meetup in August. So they get an opportunity to meet you. Are you looking forward to doing the meetup?
Yes.
Oh, very much so.
Very
Yeah.
much, yes.
Like I said, last time we went to one of the gatherings, we didn't get the chance to chat with anyone. We had to dash off a long journey home. So this time we're taking the tent and we're bringing the dog and we are staying the night. So that we've got an opportunity to meet people. Awesome. I particularly want to meet the two speakers you've got, Richard Smith.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy, I'm in awe of him. I mean, I cannot believe the knowledge. You know, there's a lot of people on YouTube that are, you know, give out the verbal diarrhea and stuff. But I mean, the knowledge that man has is actually quite frightening, I think. I don't know how he stores it all. It's incredible listening to him. And also,
him and Coach Stephen are the two main speakers. We've got other speakers leading up to it. But those two, as you say, they are worth the money alone just to buy the ticket. Let alone the fact you're going to get fed while you're there as well with some fantastic food as well. So
we're really looking forward to it.
Yeah, the food sounds amazing, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I believe it's George been in charge of getting the food organised. George, good enough?
Yeah, George. Yeah, a great name to have. Good enough.
Yeah, I know. What a name.
Yeah, so George is very much in charge of the food side of it, and he's got Ashley, who's a personal friend of his, but he's doing hog roasts and lambs and all sorts based on the numbers that we have finally achieved. That's the reason we're having to cut the ticket sales off on the 19th of July, so then Ashley can prepare the level of volume of food that he needs. That's why we... so people are interested, you need to get your ticket before the 19th of July. Otherwise, you won't get a ticket. So, and ticket sales have gone really well so far. We're about where I expect us to be. I anticipate to be up to about 100, 150 people there if it carries on its current trajectory. So it should be a really good event and we're people that are carnivore curious, as well as carnivores or failed carnivores, whatever, you're all welcome. I think it'll be a great day, educational. I think it'll be beneficial and it's good for the community.
Yeah, it's a very good idea. Because there's not many every year, is there, carnivore gatherings? Because I think if
it's successful, we may take it to other parts of the country and do, so because Glastonbury is a fair journey. It's definitely a fair journey for me. It's almost right across the country for me. But
of course, you're
like you. Yeah. So I'm staying down the Friday night and the Saturday night, one to help prep, and then obviously just to enjoy the whole night and not have to rush off or anything. So really looking forward. And I'm not doing any comedy that week, although I might give a few jokes on stage, but we'll see.
I think it's just over 2 hours for us, so not too bad for us, is it, really?
No, not too bad.
And what's quite interesting is I've made friends with George now, obviously with the meetup, and we both trained in the same town in 1980 and 1981 in because he lives in Bridgewater now, and I was there.
Yes, indeed,
I was there as well. Like I was at Cannington College, and I think he trained at the college there as well. So we have got a bit of a common denominator going on there. So that's going back in time quite a bit, isn't it?
Wow, that's awesome. Generally looking forward to seeing you guys in person. I didn't realise you were at the London event. I was busy trying to film bits of it, so I wasn't really taking much notice of who attended and that. So
it wasn't that many people there, was it? Only about 55 people, I think.
Yeah, something of that sort of number, which, but again, we're a growing community. The momentum is in the right direction. And then, the more the merrier, I always say.
It was a good gathering. The speakers were really impressive, weren't they? The stories were amazing. The miracle stories.
And we've got a few of them lined up as well in ahead of obviously Richard and Stephen, Coach Stephen. So I think it would be, I really do believe it's an awesome day. We've got a local disco band, whatever, I can't remember what it is, that George is arranging for the evening, so we could all finish off the evening, with a good, high-spirited, wonderful time. So everyone's welcome to come along.
Great.
As long as they buy a ticket, obviously.
Obviously.
Yeah. So, guys, brilliant. Thank you for your time. Really, really appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing you on the 2nd of August. But thank you very much. And I'll say to everyone,
thank you.
Remember.
Thank you
for the opportunity.
No, it's
Thank
brilliant.
you.
It's great to get
Thank
other
you. Thank
people's
you.
stories, and I think people can relate to other people's stories rather than me just banging out you shouldn't do this and you should do that. So, as I say, kill the carbs, not your health.